I got involved mostly in women's movement with women's aid and domestic violence, and that's a long time ago. So when the men said, where did these women come from? It was as if we'd only fallen out of the sky when the peace talks were declared. We'd been around for 30 years.
Sitting in Monica's living room, I can see through to her kitchen, and on the wall there is a big poster of Martin Luther King. Monica tells me she got goose pimples when she heard his soaring speeches for civil rights in the United States in the 1960s. Decades on, with her short blonde bob, her self-deprecating warmth, she still radiates that spirit. But did she march then for women's rights?
Absolutely not. That had not crossed the Atlantic from the United States. In fact, I carried a slogan and a poster saying "one man, one vote," having no idea that I wasn't included. It should have been one person, one vote. But that came many years later, about 10 years, when we realised how male-dominated that movement actually was, even though it was the women who were sending out all the notices to gather. And I have a great photograph in Newry the week after Bloody Sunday, when all of us, it was about 100,000 people on that march, and the women had organised it, and they were somewhere in the background, and suddenly they all said, let's link arms and go to the front. And it's the only photograph that's ever been taken of those women leaders. Many of them, some of them were assassinated, some of them have died since, and nobody knows their names. And how often does that happen in terms of the political activism that women get involved in? There couldn't have been a civil rights movement without those women. And the men stood in the next row. Every one of them became famous.
Famous, too, was the violence of that time, including the day Monica mentions, Bloody Sunday, 1972.
There are two men lying at the end of this block of flats. There's another man at least very close to being dead. There are two others up there. I'm told that there are some more in these flats here that I haven't seen yet. I would say there are probably about 4 dead at this moment. I don't know what those are doing, whether they're alive or dead, but they seem to be very dead, and they're thrown in as if they were dead.
British soldiers shot 28 civilians during a peaceful protest. 14 of them died. It had a profound impact on the conflict. But when it came to women's rights, it took 20 years before Monica and other women in Northern Ireland moved from grassroots activism to mainstream politics. And that move was helped unexpectedly by leading men in the Conservative Party in London and Belfast, as well as some determined women.
It started, many people don't believe this, under John Major. And we had Sir Patrick Mayhew here, and his wife, Lady Jean Mayhew, was a bit of a feminist, as was Baroness Denton. Now, with those titles, Lady and Baroness, you wouldn't actually think that these two women would be calling all women in Northern Ireland to a conference to ask where are women's voices. And so they kick-started it, two conservative women, and they asked me to organise a conference in a rural people's college. I held it down in the country because I wanted both urban and rural women to get the chance to raise their voices, and hundreds turned up. And we asked the question, if there's ever peace talks in this country, should women be at the table? Of course there was a diversity of views, but the overwhelming view was, how could we be locked out when we have been tramping the streets and the communities for 30 years and then not to have any voice? So it actually started just after the ceasefires, the first ceasefires in 94. And all of us wanted a different future, of course, for our children. So if there was a window that was going to open up, we were going to jump through it.
And this was the formation of what became known as the Northern Ireland Women's Coalition, NIWC?
Well, it became the seeds of it. We actually had no idea that we would form it. So what we did was asked of us was that we should write to all the political parties, asking if they were putting delegates at the table who would be women in their parties, and they never bothered answering our letters. Two parties did, the Communist Party and Workers' Party, but we figured they wouldn't be at the table. So our more serious question was to the big parties, who just probably tore the letter up and put it in the bin. In fact, they told us later that women could wait. It wasn't an important issue. And that more important was, you know, the constitutional issue of either a United Ireland or union with Britain. And we said, no, we've watched and